Okay, hi guys. My name is Don. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Daily Studios. Welcome back from the break. So today I'll be talking a little bit about the company and a little bit more about what we're trying to do as a game company in Southeast Asia. It's always very, very challenging. And a little bit about our story. So I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot of art, there's a bit of video and things like that. But I feel, I would look forward to the questions you have at the end of the presentation as well. So here goes. So we are established in May 2011. We are a little bit over 2 years old now. Based in Singapore, we have a few people in Indonesia as well. This one's particularly interesting because the guys who work for us are actually our fans for some of our games in Indonesia, and they applied for us, and some of them are actually hackers, and so they hacked our games, so we hired them, and then they hacked more, so that now we can make the games better. So it's pretty interesting, but anyway, we started out with 3 people, so the 2 other founders over there, I'm the CEO of the company, and started with 3 people we had a dream to try and create one of the best game companies in the world. And of course, that is not easy, so we went on a crazy quest to try and raise money by doing projects with different government agencies and private companies, and we did that for about 6 months. Raised enough money to start working on our first game, and that grew traction. Raised our first round of investments, and then after that started raising a team of 13 people, and then moved on to 16 people. And of course, we recently closed the round with Red Dot Ventures to expand even further. So that's really the quick gist of how it all began, just a dream of 3 people. So, all right. So this office, the corporate office, is in that location, and Game Studios. Yeah, a few pictures of it. It's a little bit dark, so you might see some of that on our website. So a little bit about myself. In the company, I'm not just the CEO for looks. So I'm the executive producer and creative director. So I handle the art teams and the producer teams. Basically, things to do with game design, game mechanics, things to do with art, animation, special effects, and things like that. So I don't do them, but I manage the teams that work on that. So besides that, CEO handled the strategic planning, partner liaisons, overall, game production and some creative production. So graduated from NUS in Singapore, and that's really a quick introduction of it. So Daily Studios, what we are, we're a mobile social game developer, and I'll explain a little bit about what that is. So, okay, you can barely see this. So basically the game on the left is called Conquest Age. You can check out the graphics on the website, on our website. But Conquest Age is a Middle Eastern themed game based on Arabic and Persian style characters, along with a bit of Asian influence. Spirit Horizon is much more Asian feel to it. It's very, very Japanese mixed with the Chinese cultures. And Odin's War, you can barely see that too. It's a game based on the story of Odin and how he and his children had some battle. Anyway, that's a quick gist of it. So, mobile social games, basically what it means is mobile, anytime, anywhere. And we started off working on feature phone games because that was the lowest hanging fruit, it was easy to work on. And then we started moving on to smartphone development for game applications sometime in the middle of 2012. And we work with different social networks. So besides the commonly known one called Facebook, you might know a couple of other ones, like for example QQ, DNA, Grief from Japan, various other Southeast Asian ones like FunSpot or Cobra Games. So various other social networks that we work on, and some of these networks are also platforms and publishers. So I'll talk a little bit about these things later on. So what is the business model for mobile social games? Well, basically it's freemium business model. So basically a player can download a game for free, you can play it as long as you want for free, but we will make sure that we have various mechanics for the users to want to purchase some extra virtual items or virtual currency to enrich your game. So this is basically the model which I would say 100% of almost about maybe 90% of premium games adopt. And success of this has been shown clearly in countries like China, countries like Japan, the US, and Asia, basically everywhere. Yeah. So our market in 2012 has been mainly Southeast Asia. So we look at Indonesia, Nepal, Bangladesh, Brunei. 2013 and 14, we've been definitely expanding upwards towards North Asia. So China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, and Korea will be something of focus. Also working with some publishers from the UK to push games into Western regions as well. So So sunrise industry, I think in particular, we're looking at Myanmar being a country that's going to be expanding extremely in the mobile adoption as well, and we can definitely expect that the mobile gaming industry will also expand likewise. But outside of Myanmar, in many countries around the world, we see a huge increase in penetration for mobile. Very strange cases, like for example in Singapore, we have a huge penetration of something like 85% or more. And in countries like China, China is now the country with the most number of smartphones in the world. And so that has jumped tremendously in just a few years. So this increase in mobile penetration, increase in data accessibility, moving closer to 3G and 4G, basically allows us to be able to build more in our games, have much more real-time gameplay, much more interaction with the users. And of course building them on viral social networks, which means that players can interact with their friends, can invite their friends into games, can really play with the people that you know. And that is something that's really interesting. And so all these platforms, all these publishers, all these social networks, they are desperately and trying to grab as much market share as possible, which means that your games will essentially reach more and more users just because you're working on these platforms. So of course, many of you guys will definitely know Facebook, which has expanded tremendously. Guys like Line, also moving very, very well in Asia, and also KakaoTalk and various other ones. So our game smartphone and feature phone, I'll talk about a few. So the basic market segment we're going for is, we found that casual social games are too simple, so you don't want to build a farm build. And hardcore games are too overwhelming and also too expensive to build. So we find a nice balance of mid-core games. Basically, social games that have some real game element that really people can really enjoy, but at the same time not too crazy, not too overwhelming. That's basically what our company focuses on. So the business model, in terms of creation of IP, we focus on creating our own original IP, and also we work with various other companies to build IPs together. So examples of this, for example, is that we work with a company called Konami Digital Entertainment in Japan, and we worked on a game with them, which I'll show later. Launch strategy, because we are based in Singapore, we are not based in China or in Japan, where we can just launch in our own market. We work with various publishers and platforms to basically put our games there, and then allow these guys to help us push into those markets. So working with publishers is something that many indie and many small companies work with, but also especially when you are not familiar with how game distribution works in a particular country, then working with publishers makes complete sense. Okay. So that's basically it. So the first game that we built is called Reign of Heroes. This game was launched in December 2011. We launched it on 7th of December, became the top game on Mid33 in 13 days, and grew to well over 1.5 million registered users over the time it was in operations. And it's a WAP game, so we're talking about technology that's been around for tens of years, for maybe a decade now. And that was what we did at first. We just 3 people in a small studio, maybe something like 4 by maybe 6 feet large, and that was how we began. Okay, you guys can see the slides very clearly now. Excellent. So some statistics. We got peak for events. We have about 180,000 simultaneous users, and average about 40,000 for events. Non-average about 3,000. So that's really great for a studio with only 3 people at the time. Of course, then we grew, and 1 year later, we worked on a new version of it called Reign of Heroes Turbo. New gameplay, some of the same heroes, but of course, much more interesting heroes after that, like things like Dragon Slayers and all that. So, Reign of Heroes Turbo was really an anniversary version, and we launched it strongly into 4 Southeast Asian countries, and worked on 4 platforms at the same time. So I think it's much more than 300,000 users now, but this is the whole number. And then we worked with Konami. So this is particularly interesting. It's the first co-development for mobile games that Konami ever did. And it's called Hisho Collection Mall Empire. So Hisho basically means secretary, and in Japan it's particularly well received. So it's also a WAP game built for Southeast Asia. We launched this one in Indonesia in 2012. Yeah. So the next game we'll talk about is Spirit Horizon. This is a puzzle-based type game RPG. So a bit of screenshots and sneak preview. This game's not launched yet. So basically, we actually hired a ex-Disney script writer to do the script for this game. So we place a good emphasis on the actual story and the actual progression of the game. So it's again another original DLive IP built for iOS, Android, and web on the Unity software development kit, and supported by the Singapore MDA. And target market is basically China, Japan, Korea, the North Asian countries, launching in October 2013. So quite soon. I can break down. So it's basically a puzzle-based game mechanic with some RPG components. So different spirits and different characters done by our internal team. And wow, you cannot see that. So basically different kinds of monsters, and we call them as creatures. Backgrounds for the different by our artists, internal team. And obstacles, just a little bit of art. This was better. So stages.
The evil dragons once ruled your land. They will return. The future looks bleak. The kingdom has been torn to pieces. Fight and unite a divided realm, using your swords and your wits against fierce enemies. Fuse weapons to increase their power. Journey through a vast land with untold treasures. Find the lost war machine to prevent annihilation. Conquest Age, available now.
Right, so that's the launch trailer for Conquest Age in 3 countries. It's not available in Myanmar. It's available in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. We'll let you know when it's launched in Myanmar. So basically, Conquest Age is the original DLive IP, built only on the iOS. Main markets are the Western regions, Middle East, and Australasia. Well, it's not launching in May. It's launching in October. Anyway. So a bit of introduction into it. Basically, 3 different kind of characters balanced by certain kind of stats: speed, evasion, and strength and HP. So the concept of the game is card collection plus alpha, which is basically a collection of open weapons and additional gameplay called alpha. Some screenshots, which is not very clear, but basically the game, we spent a full year working on this title with internal teams really focusing on the artwork and the animations in the game. And this is a stone golem image that one of my guys did in a week. It's one of my favorite, just wanted to show that off. And a bit of feedback from some of the guys, especially from the Japanese game companies like Sega and Konami, and also guys like Marvelous AQL gave great feedback about the game. So we expect that the game should do well once we launch it in Asia as well. So this other title is called Odin's War. Odin's War is a co-development project with one of the Chengdu game companies in China. And so there's a bit of screenshots also. It's really just early development. So we're very proud to be co-development partner of a company called Yokia, which is an award-winning company for browser games and mobile games in China. And so combining the artistic and the technical abilities of both companies come together to work on this title. So really is collaboration between Singapore and Chinese game company. And it is also possible for something like that to happen with the Myanmar game company as well. So we look forward to that. A bit of artwork. You cannot really see the assassin on the left, but some concept art, and the project's really just begun about 1 or 2 months ago. So a lot of effort has gone into art as well. So to date, DLive Studios has worked with Konami Digital Entertainment Japan and Yokia in China for co-development projects. We are always looking for great partners to work with for co-development, whether it's using our IP or using their IP or using a combination of talents to create new IP. We're always interested to do this. If any Myanmar game developers are interested, we welcome you guys to write into business at day-livestudios.com, and we can talk more about these. So what else have we been working on? Not just building games, but building the architecture that supports the games. So in our company, we created a system, or a server-based engine called Dark Engine. Basically, it allows us to port game features across different games, across different platforms, and really grow as an engine. To date, the performance we've seen in terms of time savings and cost savings is about at least 40% reduction. We've been enjoying this. Unfortunately, the engine is not available for licensing yet, but once it is, we'll be happy to share that with different game developers. So really, the Dark Engine is based on game mechanics and trying to save time and money as we build additional games. And the whole idea of evolutive technology is to keep building onto the engine, something like what you find in Unity-based engines or Google Studio engines, where it keeps growing that way. But in our case, it's a server-based engine. So, quick summary of it. Basically, whether it's a smartphone game, feature phone game, no matter what social network we use, all the games will basically be tied back to this one engine, and that's really how we grow this engine. So, one of the most important things about mobile social games is analytics. Analytics, the basic idea of it is to find out what your users are doing in your game, what they like, what they don't like, why are they leaving the game, why are they spending money, how did they get to this point, what difficulties do they face, what kind of bugs you meet. All these information is not something that the user will tell you. So therefore, you need to track that in your game so that you can find the best ways to give them the best experience at the same time to monetize your users in the best way. So in the Dark Engine, we have inbuilt our analytics tools, they call it KPI tools. And basically, it's extremely important as a sub-module of the Dark Engine. So we have data analysts that's actually locating the data every day, churning out reports, and based on that, we find we discover new ways to improve the games and update that from there. Yeah. So essentially, what we're looking at for mobile game development is basically two parts. The first is game conceptualization. What kind of game you want to build? How do you want to monetize these users? What's the strategy? And then after that, you actually build it. And once you've built a certain prototype, a late-stage prototype, you can start talking to publishers. We have a great network of publishers, so if any of you guys are interested and you have games that you're willing to share with the world, we can definitely help you out. And so tomorrow's workshop, we'll be talking a little bit more about game conceptualization, how to get you guys to kick off these projects. And I'll be covering a little bit about the breakdown of one of the top games created by a Taiwanese company, I think the Taiwanese, and to really drill down on the different elements they've added into the game, and something for you guys to learn from. And I think Julian Lowe will cover a little bit more about the design process of the game design documents and all that. So game distribution is extremely important. If you just build a game without considering the fact of how you're going to be distributing the game to the different markets around the world, then it's just building a game for fun. Because if you're trying to build a sustainable game company, you really need to think about distribution from day one. Which are the markets you're targeting, which are the publishers that are willing to push this game out, and who do you know that's going to help you out. So moving after after you launch the game, it's all about game analytics, all about understanding the users, and also how you're going to monetize these users. When you put out the latest sales, what items do they like? What kind of characters do they like? Things like that. And then, based on that, update the game and upgrade the game from what you understand from your users. It's really important there. Okay, so to end off really quickly, my emphasis and my recommendation for game development is really to build highly scalable products. You really need to focus on the original IP. Because you're not Sega, you're not Konami, you're not Capcom, you're not EA. You don't have 500 to 2,000 staff working on various games. So you need to position your games in a very unique angle, and so that you can break through from there. One of the great things that one of the interesting things about game development in the game industry is that there hasn't been completely original games for an extremely long time. Which means that the games that you've played growing up, maybe you spend 15, 20 years of your life playing games, some of these ideas that have appeared before, if you mix and match them well, if you blend them into latest technology, you can create some really great stuff. And even the big boys will be following you. So great examples of this all over the world, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can create also. So in terms of partnerships, we believe in working with co-development with major companies. I think that's a great way to learn. We learned a lot from our collaboration with Konami, particularly so for things like analytics, things like we call it game design as well. Distribution channels, so strategic partnerships with various other people, various other platforms and publishers in different countries. So opportunities, I think this is particularly interesting. So we're keen to work with mobile game developers from Myanmar, and co-development opportunities will definitely be possible if combining talents with both companies. And also, if you guys are indie developers or you guys are trying out to work on your games, we'll be happy to consider publishing the titles, which means that we can help take your games and move them outside of Myanmar to countries like Japan and Korea and Singapore and other regions as well. So that's something that we can do by ourselves and also with our partner companies. And also, DLX Studios is always seeking talented staff who are willing to go out there and really put it all to work on games that you love. And I think one of the great things in DLX Studios is that every employee is really given the opportunity to create the game that they want to create. And I think it's not just the CEO shouting like, hey, we're going to make this game, we're going to do it this way. I think all the stuff that we have created is really a accumulation of all the talents and all the dreams of the guys that we have in the company. So I think I'm very proud of that. So if you think you have what it takes to work in DLX Studios, you can send an email to draft@d-lightstudios.com. It's not very visible over there, but and will DLX Studios have an office in Myanmar? Maybe. If we have sufficient interest for people and talented people who want to work with us, we might set up an office here so that we can, and this team will work directly with our team in Singapore and really learn from there. And so of course we send some of our top guys over here to basically train these guys and really get you guys up to speed to what what the kind of technology that we need for the rest to move our games to the rest of the world. And that's it. Thank you. So I'll be happy to take any questions. I know I spoke a lot of things, I said a lot of things, so thanks. Sorry? Sorry, I can't hear you.
I can pick up, but I would like to know about your outlook on console games.
Okay.
If there will be any growth in that.
So console games is in summary, console games are basically declining. I love console games. I grew up playing all kinds of different consoles, but the truth is that many game companies around the world, especially the major ones, are having difficulties generating the revenues that they intended to. And of course, because the state of art keeps moving, keeps shifting, the requirements and the need to spend more money to build console games keeps increasing. And when you compare it to, for example, a console game could take anything from like $1 million to say $3 or more USD, whereas a mobile game can take anything from $50,000 to $300,000 to build. And the potential revenue from a mobile game could be much higher than a console game. So because of that, major game companies, AAA game companies around the world are closing down studios, they're closing down departments, working on console games because they are shifting their attention to mobile. I mean, I think it is to be expected that the mobile industry will keep growing and the demand for exciting new mobile games will keep increasing. So because of that, and because like for example, cases like Myanmar where you have huge market potential that is coming up soon, you will find that most console game developers will shift their attention to that. So there will be still a lot of console games, a number of console games being built because, for example, Konami will continue building on Metal Gear, Capcom will continue building Street Fighter, but there will be a shift, and the shift has already happened. And you find major teams just being dropped out of console games companies.
Thank you very much.
Anything else from anybody else?
Just now you mentioned that you are willing to publish games for Myanmar-based game studios. So I'd like to know what's the revenue share?
Okay, well, it really depends on the kind of support that we're providing. So, for example, first of all, it also depends on the game. Well, if the game has to be of a sufficient standard, if we are to publish a title, again, publishing can happen not just from Myanmar, from any other country. So the standard and quality, is definitely has to meet that level. Once that is established, it really depends on which markets we're going. So different markets requires different marketing dollar spent. So for example, Singapore might be cheaper than, for example, China, and of course your expected number of users will vary. Again, publishing deals that I've seen so far could go something like as the developer getting at least something like 70% to 50% or to 30%. It really depends on the country that you're going for, and of course in each country there's a different kind of expectation. So I think in China your developer typically doesn't get 70%. Typically they get usually they get about 30% or less. That's usually the case. At least that's what I've seen. For places like in the US, you can try and get something like 70%. It really depends. Yeah. And also it depends on the support, because every publisher can provide a different thing. Sometimes it's branding, sometimes it's network, sometimes it's marketing know-how. So it really depends.
Thank you.
Okay, so any last questions? I think other than that, one more.
I just want to ask about the gamer, game studio, game developers. So for the hardware, what it takes to become a game developers, and usually what the compensations and packages you get when you become one, entry level, intermediate level.
So you said compensations?
Yeah. So
Like a salary?
let's say, yeah, salary, or what do you get? Let's say in your daylight studios, and also what does it take to become qualified to join the team?
Okay. Let's see. In Daylight Studios, to be perfectly honest, we get a lot of people applying to work for us in Singapore. Some days we get 10 to 20 applicants without any form of marketing. In fact, we haven't marketed for employees since the first one we did, which was about 1 month of marketing after we got our first round of investments. I think we have a very constant flow of people applying, so which means because of that we're quite spoiled, which means that we actually we really can try and hire the best people that apply. And fortunately, because of that, we set a very high standard of who we want. For example, programmers will definitely go through programming tests, and of course, based on that, based on how they perform, based on their attitudes, there's a lot of soft factor as well. We really look at these guys and see their motivation. I think everybody who wants to be in the game industry has a certain amount of passion, but we have to see beyond that and to really see whether this guy can fit into the game, the team. Besides that, of course, technical abilities. So programming is one thing, artistic abilities as well. So we have art tests. We see, and our senior artists will look at the art to see whether this guy has the foundation set right. And of course, once they come in, we have a probation period, about maybe 3 months, where we see whether they work well with our team. If someone has attitude problems or someone has discipline problems, which hasn't happened, fortunately. But if they do, then we might not continue their employment with us. So I think I think we, at the end of the day, we really try to hope to find the best people in, at least for our Singapore office. But for Myanmar office, we understand that there's still a lot of learning that has to happen for the engineers and the artists here, and that's why our expectations might not be that high. But we definitely will try and assess the applicants, the attitude or the enthusiasm. At the same time, we will still issue tests to see if they meet the requirement standards that we're looking for. In terms of compensation-wise, of course, in Myanmar and Singapore, it's quite different. Standard of living is different. In Singapore, we can pay someone as I think as high as above 3,000. If it's possible as well. 3,000 Singapore dollars would be about, how much is that? Let me see. 3,000 dollars.
2 million.
Sorry, 2 million?
2 million.
Yeah, so that amount. So in Singapore, it's of course much higher. In Myanmar, we really don't know yet. We really have to see what the applicants are looking for, and also what the industry standards are. But probably something similar. Yeah. But one of the things that we can probably try and add to the table is that there'll be a lot of learning. So our guys will, if we do set up an office here, our guys will be flying down, and of course via Skype or via email or whatever, trying to train these guys to set them to the right standard of what we require and what the industry requires in game development. I hope I answered your question. Thank you. Okay, last call. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. It's been my honor and pleasure to be speaking.